Welcome to Serenity Rising, Healing with Cancer. I'm Bron Watson, and I want to welcome you to not just a podcast, but to a community, a new way of seeing, feeling, and walking through the chaos of cancer. Hi, lovely people, and welcome back to Serenity Rising. I want to start today's episode with something that happened not long after my second diagnosis. I was sitting in a waiting room, one of those fluorescent lit, fake plants, 2 cold rooms that you start to know very well when you're in the cancer system. And I looked around at the other people around me, different ages, different stories. And I had this thought, every single person in this room is carrying a question they may not have asked out loud yet. Maybe they're afraid of the answer. Maybe they think it makes them sound weak or ungrateful or difficult or a doomsdayer. Maybe they've already asked their doctors and felt like the question didn't quite land the way they needed it to. Today's episode is for those questions, the ones that come into your brain at 3 a.m, the ones you type into Google and then close the tab because you're too scared of what you'll find and don't want your family to see, the ones you almost say out loud to someone you love and then you swallow them back down because you don't want to worry them. These are the 3 questions no one prepares you for. Before I get into the 3 questions, I want to say something about the medical system because I've worked inside it as a nurse and educator for decades, and I've also been a patient inside it, twice with cancer, plus other things. And I want to be clear, the system saves lives. My oncologist and my medical team are extraordinary, and I'm here today because of them. But here's what the medical system was not designed to do: sit with you with the questions that you don't have clinical answers for. Sadly, the funding may not be there to answer all of them. It wasn't for fault. It wasn't built for the grief, the confusion, the identity loss, that raw terror that arrives alongside a diagnosis. That's not a criticism. That's just the truth of what it is. And that gap between what medicine can offer and what a human being actually needs, that's exactly why I started the Serenity Project in the first place. The 3 questions I'm sharing today aren't medical questions. They're human questions. And before I go any further, please note these may trigger and cause fear. Please make sure you understand this and reach out to your own medical and health team. This is for educational purposes, so please reach out to your professional team for assistance as needed. Trigger warning. And the most important thing I want you to know before we go any further is this: asking these questions doesn't mean you're falling apart. It means you're paying attention. It means your mind and your heart are trying to make sense of something enormous. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. And one more thing before we begin. These questions don't get answered once and then go away. You'll come back to them again and again. You might come back on the hard days in 6 months from now, or in the middle of a scan, or when someone says something clumsy at the family dinner, and that is okay. Processing is not linear. Healing is not a linear checklist. We are going to talk about how to live alongside these questions over time, because that is what it actually takes. The first question is this one. It's the biggie. Let's go. Am I going to die? This is the first question that arrives, sometimes in the room where you receive your diagnosis. Sometimes it's waiting for you in the car on the way home. And sometimes it doesn't arrive until the middle of the night, weeks later, when the shock has finally worn off enough for it to surface. I want to tell you what this question is really asking, because on the surface, it looks like it's about mortality. And yes, it is. Underneath that, most of the time, this question is actually about control. It's asking what is going to happen to the people I love if I'm not here. It's asking, how much time do I have? And am I spending it in the right spot? It will be asking, will there be enough of me to go around? When I received my second diagnosis, the 23rd of February 2023, it is etched in my brain as if it was yesterday. And I was told this cancer was incurable, that it was now an operational management condition. It did have a prognosis, which means, yes, it had a number attached to the length of my lifetime, and that I would be managing these changes for the rest of my life. And the question wasn't just, am I going to die? It was, what does my life look like now? It was, who am I without the certainty I used to have? And honestly, some days it was like, is this all worth fighting for? Not in a dark way, just in the way that humans have when the future suddenly feels uncertain in a way it never did before. The research backs this up. Studies in advanced cancer consistently find that death anxiety isn't simply the fear of dying, it's driven by intolerance of uncertainty and loss of control. And here's the piece that I find most important. Researchers have found that patients who lack a sense of meaning in their lives experience significantly higher death anxiety. They've even got a name for it. Meaninglessness amplifies the fear in a way that the medical information alone can't reach. This is why the work we do here matters. You cannot think your way out of this question. You can only learn to breathe with it. So what do you actually do with it? The first thing, and I mean this as both a nurse and someone who is living it, is to stop trying to answer it alone. This question is too big to carry by yourself. It needs a witness. Now, that might be a therapist who understands cancer and grief. It might be a support group where the people in the room actually get it. It might be a podcast on a hard morning like this one, reminding you that someone else has asked the same question and is still here. The second thing is to gently separate what you can control from what you can't. I know that sounds simple. It isn't, but it is the work that we do here. And the reminder, the Serenity Prayer, which is the heart of this entire project, is not asking you to pretend that what's happening isn't terrifying. It's asking you to find the one thing you can do today, right now, not the whole map, just the next step. Now, the third thing to think about, and this one took me a long time to understand, is that this question changes as you change. In the early days, it may feel like a wall. Later, it might soften into something more like an annoying friend of a friend. The goal is not to make it disappear. The goal is to stop letting it run the room and have the power card. Okay, now here we go. Here's the second question. Why me? Did I cause this? This is the question that the medical system is least equipped to answer, and the one that does the quietest damage when it's left unexplained. Because here's what happens. A diagnosis arrives, and the mind immediately starts searching for a reason. That's not a character flaw. This is the human brain doing exactly what it was designed to do, looking for a pattern, a cause, a way to make sense of something that feels completely senseless. But when the brain turns that search inward, it can become brutal. I remember after the breast cancer diagnosis, literally within the month, someone said to me, "If you don't change how you live, Bron, it's going to come back." Now that scared the absolute bejesus out of me. What? How? Where do I start with that? That vortex of fear about this haunted me for years. The brutal truth of it was, though, is that those few words caused such a deep trauma at the time because the trauma was on the trauma was on the trauma. Was it the stress that I was under for all the years? Was it the way that I pushed myself? Was it the food I ate? The alcohol we had at Christmas? The decade where I didn't exercise enough because I'd had 5 babies? Was it something in my past that I hadn't forgiven myself for? Was it my endless support of everyone around me with not enough love and self-care? I did all of those questions. I did all of them. I went back through my life like a detective looking for the crime. Call me Hercule Poirot. And I want to tell you what I found. I found a woman who had worked incredibly hard, loved deeply, tried her best with what she had and was human, not a cause, just a person, a human being. Now, the research is clear on this. Self-blame is one of the strongest predictors of poor mental health outcomes in cancer patients over time. It doesn't resolve anything. It doesn't make you safer. It just keeps you locked in a loop that has nowhere useful to go. Naming it as a coping pattern rather than a verdict on your character is the first step out of it. The question, why me, is really asking, do I deserve this? And the answer is, of course, no. Cancer is not a punishment. It's not a verdict on the life you've been living. And the one thing I know here is that bad shit happens to good people, full stop. Now, I also want to be honest about something because I think we do people a disservice when we pretend this question has a clean, crisp answer. There are sometimes lifestyle factors that play a role in certain cancers. The medical evidence exists, and I'm not going to dismiss it. But, and this is what matters enormously, knowing that something was a contributing factor is not the same thing as being responsible for your own suffering. There is a difference between understanding and blame and shame. The first one is useful. The second one will only hurt you. So how do you process this over time? You start by noticing when the self-blame loop activates. You'll know it. It has a particular quality, a kind of relentless hamster wheel energy that exhausts you without getting you anywhere. Know the feeling? I sure do. When you notice it, the practice is to name it. Literally, there's the blame loop. not to fight it, not to argue with it, not to push it away, but just name it and choose not to follow it down the rabbit hole. And for what it's worth, the research on forgiveness in cancer patients is genuinely beautiful. And yes, of course, I have to research it. The studies have found that forgiveness is a significant predictor of reduced anxiety in oncology patients after treatment. You can know that something may have played a role and still choose to forgive yourself. Those two things are not in conflict. Self-forgiveness is not self-deception. It is the only path forward that doesn't keep you locked in that loop. So please know the past is the past, and reliving it or wishing you had done something different wastes your precious energy. Remember the Serenity Prayer here. God, grant me serenity to accept what I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Make sure you insert God, higher purpose, source, Dennis, insert whoever you believe. It's a wisdom moment when it comes to the past because you cannot change it. It's done. The deeper work, and this often benefits from professional support, whether that's a therapist or a good coach or a trusted community, is to move from blame forward to meaning. Not what did I do wrong, but what does this experience have to teach me? This is a very different question, and it opens doors instead of locking them. I'll tell you what my second diagnosis taught me because I think it's relevant. It taught me that I had built a version of myself that had no room for rest, no room for softness or for being vulnerable. And I had thought I'd done all the work after the first curable diagnosis, but there was no room except for being capable, committed, and showing up. Now, that is not a cause, but it was an invitation for me to have a look what was going on for me. Okay, last question. Who am I now? Now, this question, this is the one that tends to arrive last, but it's the one that stays the longest. And I think it's the one that's most underestimated because when cancer enters your life, it doesn't just change your body, it changes your story. And for many of us, our story, the one we've been telling ourselves and the world about who we are, was built around the things that a diagnosis can take away. Our productivity, our energy, our role as the one who holds everything together, our plans, our future. For me, my identity was tightly wrapped around doing. I was a nurse. I was a business owner. I was a mother of 5. And I was the person who showed up no matter what. I literally wore it like a badge of honor. I'll tell you a quick story here. I was literally 4 hours after my second chemotherapy, and I was on a Facebook Live into my mastermind group, and I caught a glimpse of myself. And first of all, I went, oh my God, who's that? Because I was already bald. I was so red and round in the face, and I looked terrible, but I caught a glimpse of this person who was doing this Facebook Live because I said I was going to deliver something, and so I delivered what I said I was going to deliver. But I caught a look of myself in the eye. And I looked at myself and I said, do you want to die? Because if you keep up this, Bron, you are going to die. The decision is up to you. And I literally shut that mastermind down overnight with zero plan B, huge business that I literally had to let go overnight because it was either going to be me or everyone else. And in that split second, I learnt this lesson that we're talking about right now. That was how deeply I believed that my worth was measured by my output, literally like a badge of honor. The difference now, though, is that I deliver what I'm saying I'm going to deliver, but it's delivering it on my timeline now. That's the difference. Now, I've been invited onto numerous podcasts in recent times. If you want to check out some of those where I discuss this very thing, which is around resilience and relentlessness, head on over to serenityproject.com.au, head to the media page, and we are updating and adding podcasts to that every week. It's been a fantastic experience talking to amazing people around the world. So go and check what we've been sharing with those around the world. It's been fantastic. And what happened in that moment of the split second was that my body made it impossible to continue the way I was living. Not temporarily, it was a permanent change that I dealt with. And then I had to ask myself, if I'm not the person who does all the things for all the people at that pace, well, who am I? You are not what you produce. You are not your output. You are a human being, not a human doing. And you are not your role or your diagnosis or your prognosis. You are a person. Please, let's put that front and center. But I also don't want to be glib about this because the identity shift that comes with cancer is genuinely hard. There's a lot of grief, not grief from dying, but the grief of a version of yourself that no longer exists. And the grief needs to be honored and not bypassed. There is a body of research on something called post-traumatic growth, the idea that positive psychological change can emerge from the struggle with a major life crisis. What that research has found is that the coping strategies most strongly linked to this kind of growth were approach-oriented, coping, positive reframing, and seeking social support, not personality traits where you don't have it or you do, but the things that can be practiced and supported because it matters. It means growth is not a gift given to the lucky few. It's something that we can all do and be cultivated with the right conditions around us. And this is super important. Post-traumatic growth is not something you can rush or manufacture. You cannot decide to have it in a week or two. It's a thing that tends to emerge slowly and quietly when you stop trying to get back to who you were and start allowing yourself to discover who you're becoming. Now, I'll be sharing a full episode on this very topic with a trauma specialist and psychologist, Dr. Natalie Green, in the coming weeks. So please keep an eye out for it. So how do you work with this question over time? The first practice is permission. Permission to not know the answers yet. Permission to feel disoriented. Permission in the in-between, which is really, really uncomfortable, but it's also genuinely necessary. One of my favorite quotes that I live by every day is by Kerry Chinner. I know I will, I just don't know how. And for the control queen that I used to be, this has not been an easy learning. Now, the second practice is curiosity. Instead of asking, who am I now, in a panicked way, you can try asking really gently, what do I still love? What still feels like me? What I've discovered about myself through this that I didn't know before. These questions won't answer themselves immediately, but the act of asking them with kindness rather than fear changes the quality of what emerges. And the third practice is community. We figure out who we are in part by seeing ourselves reflected in other people. When you're ready, find your people. It took me a good few years to even be able to sit and talk with another person who was going through the big C. Researchers found that psychological support at the time of diagnosis and ongoing social connection are among the strongest predictors of post-traumatic growth over time. Connection is not just comfort. According to the evidence, it's a prerequisite for identity reconstruction. This is one of the core reasons the Serenity Project exists as it is. It's a community, but not just a content library. So what does processing actually look like? I want to say one more thing before I close today. Processing these questions is not a project with a completion date. You will not wake up one morning and have a fully resolved your relationship with mortality or guilt or identity, because that's what we've been talking about. What you will find, if you give it time and gentleness, is that your relationship with these questions changes. That's the work, not fixing the feeling, learning to hold it without letting it take over. There will be hard days. There will be scans that bring everything back to the surface. There will be anniversaries and conversations and small moments in the supermarket that catch you completely off guard. This is not a sign that you haven't healed. That is a sign that you are human, and that is why it matters, which is why we call it healing and not healed. Just the other day when I was waiting at the Cancer Institute, I watched a lady walk out sobbing with her husband trailing after her, and it brought back a day just like the one I had been. I literally felt it in my entire body. And it was really hard for me to watch, and I'm sure for everyone else. But the work here is to acknowledge the feeling, to name it and let it be, and have compassion and love for that person, but not relive the story and trauma of your day of walking out after your bad news. The goal is not to arrive somewhere beyond these questions. The goal is to become someone who can carry them with grace, where grief and gratitude coexist in this very weird way. And grace, I've learned, doesn't mean doing it perfectly. It means doing it honestly. It means asking for help when you need it. And that's pretty damn hard for me, let me tell you. And I really admire those who can do that, and I'm in awe of you. It means letting the people who love you actually reach you. It means telling the truth about who you are, even when the truth is hard to hear. That's the work, and it is worth doing. If today's episode brought something up for you, if one of those questions landed somewhere really tender and was triggering, I want you to know that it's okay, that you don't have to have it figured out, and you don't have to be further along than you are. And as I mentioned at the beginning, please reach out to your professional team if something has been triggered. Make sure you get the help that you need. If you'd like to go deeper with any of these ideas that we've explored today, come and visit us at serenityproject.com.au. There's a community there, people who are asking the same questions, carrying the same weight and finding their way through it together. Make sure you sign up to our newsletter. It's called The Check-In, and you'll hear all about the details. And if this episode spoke to someone you know, someone who's just been diagnosed or who's somewhere in the middle of it all, or who's trying to support someone they love, please share it with them. These conversations are how we break the silence and together raise the awareness where science and soul meet. Until next time, be gentle with yourself, where each moment matters and where they join together to make memories so that you can make every day count. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been great having you here. And what I would love you to do is leave a comment or ask a question using my fan link below this episode and on every episode that we post. I would love to hear your thoughts, your questions, and I'll get back to you. Have a great day and bye for now.